Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to talk about chronic relapsing. It's funny because in recovery and sobriety, you can never guess who's going to quote unquote make it. You never can. You know, and I've been both of these types of people. So, you got the person, the guy or gal who's like just out of treatment and going to all the meetings and their mind seems so clear. And I've been that person and just gung ho recovery, 90 and 90, 120 and 90, just hitting meetings like crazy and got the sponsor and doing all this and that or whatever their program of recovery is. They're hitting it strong, and you're like, this person's gonna make it. And I've thought that way. Like, I got this. I'll never go back to using, to drinking or drugging ever again. And then somewhere in the mix, 30 days later, 6 months later, whatever it is, they just fall off for whatever reason. And then there's been people who I was like that, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'm sure we all have. There was a person who was like, oh, man, that person's the dope fiend of dope fiends, or that person's the drunk of drunks. Like, they don't have, it's sad to say, but they don't have a chance in hell of ever getting 30 days sober, let alone staying long term sobriety. And then boom, 10 years later, they got 10 years of sobriety, and I'm working through another first 30 days. So you literally can never call it. You can never just bet on somebody. It's all about the individual, from my experience, and like how open minded and willingness that they have and what they're willing to do, the lengths they're willing to go to. They say in the world of recovery, people say a lot, you got to put in the effort that you put into using into your recovery program, into staying sober. And that's so true, because I don't know about you, but with my drinking and drugging, you know, I went to extreme lengths to accomplish being high and being drunk. I mean, you couldn't put distance, you couldn't put financial between me and it, you couldn't put time, nothing you could put between me would stop me from eventually getting my drug or getting my drink or both. And it's the same way with recovery. So you never really can call it who's gonna end up having the long term sobriety and who's gonna fall off in the first year. And another thing that for like well for the addicts themselves and for family members, I think a lot of times family members and friends think they were just bullshitting me. They weren't serious about staying sober. They were just getting a hustle over on me. But I know all the times where I said I was serious about it. I'm like, this is it. I'm done for good. Like, I would have passed a lie detector in that moment. I meant it in my heart. But unfortunately, this disease of addiction is cunning, baffling, and powerful. And it if you don't stay on top of your recovery game in some way, whatever that looks like to you, whatever works for you, it's gonna pop back up and grab you. Because I mean, I got a mind that's working on killing me. I got this disease of addiction that wants to see me dead. First, it wants to break me morally and ethically and physically, and it wants to take all my self dignity and respect away, take everything it can from me. When there's nothing left to take from me, it's just gonna go ahead and do away with me. It's a disgusting thing. But yeah, I seriously was never playing anybody. I mean, apparently I was playing myself and I didn't know it. But the times I said that, I'm never using again, I'm never drinking again, and I mean this and I want this and this is it, and then whatever, 30 days down the road, 2 years down the road, 6 months down the road, I ended up relapsing, going back out. I didn't see that coming in any more than someone else did. Well, in some situations, some people saw it coming and I wasn't listening to their suggestions, but you know how that goes. But I've been a chronic relapser. I think a lot of people have. I've always kind of had a chip on my shoulder for them, for those people who like got sober and have long-term sobriety, 5, 10, 15 years plus. They're like their first or second or third time. But that's not my story. I know a lot of other people out there. It's not theirs either, and you just can't ever give up, man. There's always hope. As long as you're taking in breath, there's always hope that you're going to change it around. Being stuck in active addiction and alcoholism is it's a lonely, lonely place. I mean, I've slept on the side of buildings, thinking, what am I doing, dude? Like, how did it get here? I didn't start off that way. It took a decade plus to get me there, but I was there, and I still continued with it. I guess at the time in my mind, I thought, well, it can't get any worse than this, but it always can get worse. One thing I learned about active addiction is you never draw a line in the sand. Never say, okay, I'm never going to do this or I'm never going to do that, because you will end up on the other side of that line looking like an asshole. It's just the way it goes. And if you say, "Oh, I'll never steal or lie to family or friends," you will steal from family and friends. "I'll never lose a job over it," you will lose a job. "I'll never put it before my kids," you will put it before your kids. It's just the disgusting truth of it. It's a progressive illness, and you always pick up where you left off. It took me years and years to get to the bottom in my addiction. But if I go back out today, I'll be there tomorrow. Within the first 3 weeks, guaranteed, everything will be ruined. And my relationship with my gal, with my kid, my job will be screwed up. I'll probably have warrants out for my arrest if my past is any indicator. It'll just be all screwed up, But never count out that loved one or that friend or that family member, whoever who's really trying. Like, be supportive of them, And I get it, Us addicts, we let people down all the time, So I'm not saying, go in head first and just and think that they couldn't possibly mess up, because as we know in recovery, when you put expectations on human beings, you're setting yourself up for resentment. Everybody is just a human being. When you put expectations on another person, then you're setting yourself up to be hurt or to be disappointed, unfortunately. And so if you're that family member of the chronic relapser addict, just be there for them. Just let them know that you care and that you're supportive of them as long as they're helping themselves. That's something I hate to hear when I'm an addict. Whenever I want money from someone or a couch to crash on or a ride somewhere or whatever it is that I want from someone, because I always want something from someone when I'm using and drinking. And I have family members and friends who are like, "Look, I'm going to be here for you as much as you're here for yourself, Mark." And that sucked kind of to hear, because really I just wanted $50 and a ride somewhere or whatever it may be. But it's the truth, You want them to know that you're going to be there for them as long as they're trying to take the necessary steps to help themselves and to make changes. Otherwise, you're really just enabling and helping them kill themselves and helping them live in misery, And for the addict that's a chronic relapser, the alcoholic that's a chronic relapser, just don't give up. You can't ever give up, man, because, I'm not one of the greater minds of the 21st century. I'm no well-published writer or something, or just some overall great mind, but I know human beings weren't meant to live like that. Being stuck in active addiction and alcoholism is a very, very low emotional, spiritual, physical spot. I mean, it's just an all around horrible place to be, and none of us were meant to live our lives that way. It's just a fact that I know in my heart. Don't ever give up on yourself, and if you're giving up on yourself, don't expect anyone else to not give up on you. And more or less, staying in active addiction, alcoholism, is giving up. I mean, that's how I viewed it. Whenever stuff just got too rough, too much to handle, and I felt like the world put too much on me, I felt like I had, the cheat code, which was I could just give up. I could just run back to the needle, or I could run back to the bottle, and I didn't have to face all that, So obviously the rest of the world, family and friends, are going to see it as giving up too. And, it's going to be hard to have people to have your back when you're not having your own, And I get that. I totally get that. We just kill the people around us that care about us. I mean, it's just vicious to watch. There hasn't been too many times I've been on the other side of that, actually. But the few times that I have been, it was rough. Seeing someone I really, really cared about, and they were the ones screwing up when I was being straight, and it hurt hard. And I knew that there was nothing that I could do. Like nothing I'm gonna say or do, or ultimatums or anything that's gonna make them change. It just doesn't work that way. But yeah, if you're what is considered a chronic relapser, there's there's always time to make the changes, the necessary changes to better yourself. And what lies beyond it is so much better than active addiction and active alcoholism, you know. And I don't think anybody really thinks it isn't. It's just it's hard to get out of that rut when you're stuck there. It's so easy to just fall into it and just and stay in that habit of being, you know. And again, for the family members and friends of the chronic relapser, you know, nobody, you know, let's get it straight. Nobody, no matter what they say or how they act, they don't want to live that way. They know better than that. I don't even know who the person is, and I know they know that they don't want to live that way. But again, there's not much you can do about it. It's just simple. You can except let them know that you love them and you're going to be there for them, and you're especially going to be there for them when they begin to make changes. You know, I brought my life down super, super low, to where, you know, with my self pity, am I living out on the streets, you know, or being in the penitentiary or wherever I was, and sitting around in my self pityville, thinking how I have nobody and nobody cares about me, and I mean that wasn't all factual. In reality, there were a lot of people that cared about me, but what could they do? What could they do? Just keep giving me money, just keep getting the shotgun seat and the ride to me destroying my life. I mean, who wants to watch that? You know, who wants a up close and behind the scenes ticket to that show? You know, I didn't even want it, and I was there. So, you know, we can't expect our family members and friends to ride co-pilot on that kamikaze mission. But dude, I never thought I would be sober right now. And there's homeboys of mine that are sober right now that I never thought they would be. I mean, it's just so possible. And I am no one special. Like, I'm very far from something special, you know. So if I'm doing it, and some of the other cats I know that are doing it, and some of the other gals I know that are doing it, anyone can do it. You know, it's when have you had enough? You know, when is waking up every day with that demon on you and that monkey on your back? You know, when is living your life with something else controlling every second of it gonna be enough? When does it get tiring? When the loss is gonna be enough? You know, when people talk about bottoms, unfortunately, I found out I don't have a bottom. Bottom for me is death. You know, and that's a reality. You know, because I seem to somewhat make it, I guess, every time I thought I wouldn't. You know, I mean, I wasn't doing good by any stretch of the imagination, but I was making it. You know, I thought way back in the day, I thought if I ever, you know, stole from a family member or a friend, that'd be rock bottom for me. Did that 10 times over, unfortunately. I thought if I ever ended up locked up, you know, that would be a rock bottom for me. Did that a couple times and kept on with it. You know, I thought, you know, being stripped of my right to see my son would be a rock bottom for me. Nope. Sad as that is to admit, it wasn't. I mean, it was a low spot for me. Hell yeah, emotionally it was a rock bottom, but I kept pushing through my addiction. You know? And then, of course, I thought being homeless, living on the streets, on the side of buildings. You know, I live here in St. Louis, Missouri, and it gets really cold in the summer or winter time, and it gets really hot in the summertime. And there I was, just wasting my life away, begging for people's money and doing dope and drinking. You know, so unfortunately, I realized that a bottom for me is my heart stopping permanently. And as far as levels of different people's bottoms, like you know, some addicts look at other people and say, oh, you know, they were way worse off than I ever was, and even then some people say, well, they were never as bad as me. They don't understand, you know, like everybody's bottoms are different. But one thing I do know for sure is if you keep at what you're doing, your bottoms will get deeper and deeper. It's just a fact of how it works, you know. But I don't really have much else to say about the chronic relapsing other than you can never give up. You just can't, you know. No matter what you think you've lost, no matter what you think people think about you, or you'll never get people's love or respect back, you're wrong about all that. You know, you will build. I mean, If you're living an active addiction and alcoholism and you have been for some time, then you already know it can only get better. You know, I mean, just from day one, the moment you stop putting that stuff in your body, stuff starts to get better. And by day 7, things are better. By day 30, like, holy cow, how did I ever live that way? You know, and it just continues to get better. So don't give up on yourself. And remember, don't let your mind talk your heart into some bullshit that you know ain't right. Let's live with our mind concurrent with our hearts. See ya.